Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by Smithville Fiber Internet, streaming TV, home security and automation in Southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com. Maller Grodner Attorneys, providing legal services to clients and the community. Understanding, expertise, results. Bloomington and Indianapolis. lawmg.com. IU Alumni Association, connecting IU's network of alumni and sharing the Indiana spirit through scholarships, advocacy, and volunteerism. alumni.iu.edu. IU Center for Rural Engagement, extending IU Bloomington resources to improve Hoosier lives in partnership with communities and organizations. rural.indiana.edu. And by WTIU members. Thank you.
Coming up on Indiana Newsdesk. Barely a week into the fall semester, and some universities are already shutting down their campuses because of COVID-19 outbreaks. Indiana University starts Monday, and the school is taking a number of precautions.
We had to rethink every single square foot of our facilities and how they could be utilized in the safest and healthiest manner possible.
The governor this week laid out a plan to address racial inequities in the state.
We have an opportunity to learn from our history and admit where we've come up short of our ideals.
Ahead, a member of Indiana's Black Legislative Caucus joins us to talk about the governor's plan and whether it could lead to real change. And a Navajo man scheduled to be executed next week in Terre Haute is hoping the Supreme Court will consider his latest appeal. Those stories, plus the latest news headlines from across the state, right now on Indiana Newsdesk. Welcome to Indiana Newsdesk. I'm Joe Wren. Well, Indiana is taking part in a federal program to give unemployed Hoosiers an additional $300 in weekly benefits, but it could take up to a month for those payments to begin. President Donald Trump this month signed an executive order extending the added weekly benefit after he and Congress were unable to agree to a broader new pandemic relief plan. The new payment is half what people had been receiving under a benefit program that expired last month.
It's going to take a little bit of extra effort on our part in terms of moving staff to build a new system, and that system requires us to look at some new infrastructure.
The $300 payments will more than double Indiana's average $280 weekly unemployment payment. Indiana was paying unemployment benefits to about 330,000 people in late July, according to federal statistics. No blink, but school is almost back in session at Indiana University. Classes in Bloomington start Monday, and reporter Mitch Legan has more on IU's plan to bring students back for in-person classes as safely as they can.
At the corner of First and Henderson, there already is a picnic table set up for, what do you call that, beer bong?
Suzanne Owen has been taking all the proper precautions since the coronavirus pandemic hit the U.S. In fact, she hasn't stepped foot in a grocery store since March.
I use Instacart for Aldi's and Kroger pickup for Kroger. But that has served me very well, and I'm not sure I will ever go back into groceries.
But she's concerned that after months of doing everything by the book, that it won't be enough, with thousands of students now back in Bloomington.
I live in a neighborhood that has a lot of student parties. That will be a bit of a measure on whether or not there is a shutdown. But I'm really fearful.
Indiana University's fall semester starts Monday, and IU will join institutions such as Purdue, Notre Dame, and Indiana State in offering at least some in-person classes. With students coming back for the first time in nearly 5 months, IU's updated how school will look during a pandemic. And it starts with testing students as soon as they move in.
We'll run that and hopefully have results in about 15 to 20 minutes. Anyone who's negative, of course, move right in. Positives, though, will be asked either to return home, where they would need to isolate because it's likely they're infected, or if that's not possible or safe, to enter isolation housing.
The university spread out move-in over 2 weeks, with no more than 1,500 students a day moving into university housing. To encourage social distancing, most rooms are now for one tenant. University officials say the reopening of McNutt, Foster, and Teeter residence halls will allow for enough living space with the change. They were closed last year because of black mold.
We had to rethink every single square foot of our facilities and how they could be utilized in the safest and healthiest manner possible.
Students living off campus are still being tested, and the university hopes it'll be able to test them all before the semester begins. Tejas Halur is a junior studying entrepreneurship at IU. He isn't taking any in-person classes this semester, thanks to the university's hybrid in-person online class schedule.
I actually personally like the Zoom classes a little bit more because I can almost go on my own speed. I can rewind it if I need to, I can fast forward it, double the speed.
When it comes to classes on campus, everyone is required to wear masks. Students and staff have received their own cloth masks from the university, and officials say hundreds of thousands of disposable surgical masks will be available as well.
And we will have those in dispensers in all the major buildings entrances. So if you forgot yours or left it someplace else, you can pick one up because we expect everybody to have one on.
Classes that are held in person will have fewer students to allow for desks to be spread out, and passing periods have been lengthened. Students will be sent home after Thanksgiving and complete the rest of their classes online to try to keep them away as the flu season rolls in.
When it hit us initially, we were already able to absorb all of the information from the folks internationally and nationally because it kind of started in the coasts and migrated its way into the Midwest. So we had that knowledge base to work from.
In that time, university officials have come up with a plan for continuing testing. After completing all on-arrival testing, the university will move to surveillance and screening using saliva tests.
We'll be testing students, faculty, and staff quite regularly throughout the semester in order to try to find areas where there might be hotspots or where infections might be more prevalent, but more specifically also to find those who might be infected and don't know it and isolate them or put them into quarantine so that they are less likely to infect others.
IU officials hope surveillance testing will help prevent outbreaks. And as the fall semester progresses, they'll get a testing lab up and running at IU Bloomington.
With the ability to do a significant number of tests, with our overall goal, hopefully, of getting to test all students, at least on-campus students, at least once a week, and then all faculty and staff regularly.
In the end, though, young people are currently driving the spread of the virus. IU and the entire Bloomington area are relying on the thousands of students returning for fall classes to follow the community responsibility statements they've been required to sign in hopes of preventing an outbreak. For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Mitch Legan.
The university still has thousands of off-campus students who need to be tested, and IU officials say it needs to happen by Sunday if those students want to be able to access their online learning site, Canvas. Well, students across the country are coming back to school during the pandemic, forcing school leaders to rapidly adjust their plans for in-person and online learning. Cass County in central Indiana saw a major COVID-19 outbreak in the spring. Now the largest school district in the county reopens this week. Indiana Public Broadcasting's Jeannie Lindsay tells us how Logansport schools have prepared to educate and support families where nearly a third of students don't speak English as their first language.
On the first day back to school at Fairview Elementary School in Logansport, Tammy McMahon's classroom sits empty.
Can I see all of your cute faces this morning?
The only students you'll find in here are on a screen.
This year, I will be servicing third grade remote kids, all via an online platform.
McMahon's role looks a lot different this year. She's an English language or EL interventionist. Usually, she works with kids who don't speak English as their first language.
Last year, I serviced our newcomers, and those are students that were refugees from Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, and they would come to a special class for 2 hours a day, and we would do instruction on how to, just the introductions of school.
The district has gotten into a rhythm working with all kinds of non-native English-speaking families over the years, but Cass County had one of the largest outbreaks in Indiana at the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, and it changed everything. The district pushed the start of school back by nearly a week. At first, about a dozen families showed interest in learning online. After registration, nearly 600 kids enrolled in online classes.
24% of our remote learners are English language learners.
That's Curriculum Director Lindsay Haggerty. She says teachers have had to learn how to use online tools themselves and make sure kids still learning English can use them too. That's critical. State data shows schools graduate EL students at a rate more than 10% lower than their native English-speaking peers. With language specialists like McMahon now leading online classes of their own, additional training has been vital.
Perhaps I've even had to pull the English learner teacher, the interventionist teacher, to now become a remote teacher. What does that do? What effect does that have on students and teachers? It absolutely does have an effect.
Haggerty says she wants to minimize any negative effects a lack of support staff could have on students, especially since the term English language learners covers a lot. Kids who don't speak English don't all speak the same language, like Spanish. And while instruction is important, working with families is essential too. First-year junior high counselor Ana Aguirre says many families struggled with the abrupt shift to online learning in the spring. Some didn't have internet or know how to navigate new online tools. But she says preparation over the summer has helped.
I think they know what they're getting into now. Like if they've chosen remote, they know that they'll have to have an internet connection, that they'll have to be able to be on schedule.
And the needs of students go beyond just academics. Aguirre says she's been preparing activities to emotionally support students in school and remotely. One of her main goals this year is to build relationships and trust with families, especially those experiencing a new culture and language, and now a constantly changing school environment.
I think it's really important because I think a lot of things get lost in translation sometimes.
And there's a lot to translate. Just coming to school, kids go directly to their classrooms instead of gathering in common areas. Students have assigned seats at lunch, and hand sanitizer is everywhere. Not to mention, everyone's wearing a face mask.
And I'm going to come around, I'm going to squirt your table.
Even with all the planning and preparation, the first few days of school will focus on getting everyone, especially the kids, on the same page. For EL teacher turned remote instructor McMahon, it means teaching her third graders how to unmute their microphones and turn on their webcams.
Emily, go ahead and leave on your camera. This was the one that looks like the camera. And what could go wrong, you know?
But she says she's ready to take on this new set of challenges with her students, especially if it means coming back to school, whatever that looks like, because she says it just feels right.
And in a time of a pandemic when things don't feel right, it felt good to have something feel right.
For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Jeannie Lindsay.
School districts are having to evolve because of the pandemic. More than 40% of the state's schools are only operating online right now. This puts more pressure on parents and students. Jessica Calarco is a sociology professor at Indiana University whose expertise includes education, equality, and parent involvement. Thanks for joining us, Jessica.
Thanks for having me.
You know, I have so many questions about how schools are doing online education so that all students are set up for success. Is that an impossible thing to do right now?
I mean, certainly it's a challenge. I mean, parents are worried about the health risks of sending their kids to school, and that's part of why so many schools are closing. But there's huge challenges for families and for educators when schools move online or even partially online. There was a study recently that found that 85,000 students in Indiana alone don't have internet access at home. And so we have to think about sort of what are the challenges for those families to participate in remote learning. And even if families do have internet access, young children, children who are still learning how to read, children with special needs, children who are English language learners may need a higher level of hands-on support from their parents or their family members than their families are actually able to provide at home. And so that creates huge barriers for teachers to be able to teach those students, and certainly huge challenges for those families as well.
You know, nearly half of Indiana's school kids are categorized as economically disadvantaged. What do we need to understand about how this is impacting their learning experience when they're not in a traditional brick and mortar classroom?
Absolutely. We know from research that when schools are closed, students from more marginalized and vulnerable groups are more likely to fall behind academically, in part because they have their families are less able to provide them with extra supports and extra instruction and tutors and activities. And so with schools closed and with all of learning now pushed to the home environment, that creates huge challenges, especially for families that may have more complicated home environments, students who are dealing with homelessness, students who don't have technology at home, students whose parents have to work outside the home and may ultimately have to make that decision between, do I leave my child home alone if they're, say, 6 or 7 or 8 years old, or do I go to work and go to work to earn money for the family, or do I stay home and potentially lose the income that we rely on as well?
You know, I've read about some parents forming learning pods. I guess they hire a teacher or a tutor to work with a small group. So, I mean, it seems like a great idea if you can afford it. What do you think about the solution for working parents?
I mean, certainly pods, and that term refers to so many different arrangements, everything from co-ops, essentially of childcare co-ops that parents are forming, to a hired teacher or hired tutor. And certainly all of those different arrangements have different implications for things like equity in schools. But we can also think about, I think the key thing to reflect on with these pods that families are forming is that when they are exclusive, that families have rules about what they can engage in order to qualify for the pod. If they have to pay money, if they have to have a home environment that can host children for certain days of the week, or if they have to follow certain rules like having no contact with anyone outside of the pod, then so many children are going to be automatically excluded from those kinds of learning environments on the basis of their family income, on the basis of their family's work status, if they have a parent who works outside the home, or if they can't afford grocery delivery, or if they have health risks that prevent them from being able to join those pods as well.
Jessica, we're out of time, but thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thanks. It was great to talk with you.
The city of Bloomington is joining a growing number of cities across the country testing wastewater for levels of coronavirus. Carmel began testing a few months ago and was the first in Indiana to do so. Bloomington's mayor says the city will collect samples in specific locations to better analyze where infections are most prevalent in the city.
Every 2 or 3 days you get a number, and if you see a significant move in that number up or down, it gives you some indication that the virus is growing or shrinking in that area.
Much of the program's cost will be paid for by the state. Coming up next on Indiana Newsdesk. The governor says he has a plan to reduce racial inequality in the state, but it isn't enough to make a real difference. And Native American leaders are calling for clemency in the case of a Navajo man scheduled to be executed next week in Terre Haute. These stories and more right here on Indiana Newsdesk.
The WTIU WFIU news team connects Indiana to the world. We bring you the top news of the day on radio, TV, and online. We round up the stories that have people talking each week and dig deep into the issues that affect your community the most. The WTIU WFIU news team is where you are and telling your story.
Welcome back to Indiana Newsdesk. Governor Eric Holcomb says he wants to be a barrier buster to help reduce racial inequality in the Hoosier state. Holcomb unveiled a plan this week to create a new government equity officer position and share data on racial disparities.
The governor discussed his plans in an online speech Tuesday after the Indiana Black Legislative Caucus called last week for increased accountability for the state's police officers. Holcomb laid out about half a dozen specific actions he'll take. The first is creating a new cabinet post, Chief Equity, Inclusion, and Opportunity Officer, to work across state government.
In short, this cabinet member will help every state agency raise their game.
Holcomb will also mandate body cameras for every frontline state trooper by spring of next year. And he wants an outside group to review training at the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy, which instructs about 2/3 of police across the state.
We'll look at areas like use of force, de-escalation training, and implicit bias training.
Not included is a ban on chokeholds, which the Indiana Black Legislative Caucus calls for. The administration says the issue is more complicated and is reviewing use of force broadly.
The governor spoke publicly against police brutality and racism after the killing of George Floyd in late May. The plan the governor released this week is the first time we've heard him talk about it since. Democratic Senator Greg Taylor is a member of the Black Legislative Caucus and joins us now. Hello, Senator Taylor. Thank you for being here.
Hello, thank you for having me.
So why do you think the governor unveiled his plan this week after about 3 months since the last mentioning of racial inequity?
I think Governor Holcomb has seen a change in the community outlook and the community interest in this issue. I think that he was smart to actually put forward and create a cabinet position. I'm cautiously optimistic with the fact that we have for years been talking about these issues with the governor's office, and we have seen very little movement on these issues. So I'm cautiously optimistic with the creation of this position, along with the input from community leaders as well as the Indiana Black Legislative Caucus. We've met with hundreds of people to talk about these issues in the past, and hopefully this is going to lead to some better cooperation from the Indiana General Assembly and the governor's office moving forward.
You know, a couple months ago, the Black Legislative Caucus came up with the list of changes you wanted the governor to make through executive order. Can you just talk a little bit about those and the response from the governor's office?
Well, we had a meeting with the governor's office after we released our 3 requests through executive order, the banning of chokeholds, the study and creation of some type of study on regards to racial profiling, and then the third being the elimination of no-knock warrants. We believe as a caucus that these major issues can be resolved through executive order and resolutions through the governor's office to make communities look at this a lot harder. Of course, none of these things can be compelled on local communities without the Indiana General Assembly changing the laws in the state of Indiana. But we believe that some executive order or type of, if you will, push from the governor's office could actually be something to induce the General Assembly to do something about these issues.
Okay, and of course something we'll be following here as well. Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Can I say one more thing, though, about the situation that we find ourselves in here in Indiana?
Yeah, just like 10 seconds.
Okay. So the most important part to understand is that while the governor moves forward with these initiatives, it's going to take some changing of the minds of the Indiana General Assembly and leadership in both chambers to get these policies in place. And I encourage my colleagues to do that, my colleagues in the supermajority.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, 2 more inmates are scheduled to die by lethal injection next week at the federal penitentiary in Terre Haute. Barring any stays from the court, Lesmond Mitchell and Keith Nelson will become the 4th and 5th federal inmates executed in 6 weeks. Adam Pinsker has more.
Those who drive along or live near US 41 and West Spring Hill Road are very likely familiar with a small group of anti-death penalty activists who spent a full week protesting the executions of 3 federal death row inmates last month.
But as a public policy, we have to ask, if we're going to have the death penalty as a balm for the wounds of murder victim families, and yet use it so infrequently.
Abe Bonowitz of Death Penalty Action says his group will be back at it again next week ahead of the scheduled executions of Lesmond Mitchell and Keith Nelson at the United States Penitentiary in Terre Haute. Mitchell was sent to death row 17 years ago for the 2001 murders of a grandmother and her 9-year-old granddaughter on a Navajo Indian reservation. Mitchell used the grandmother's pickup truck to drive the girl into the mountains where he stabbed her. There's a question about whether the federal government even has the authority to pursue the death penalty against Mitchell because of a law dating back to the 1800s called the Major Crimes Act. It prevents the government from pursuing the death penalty against someone who commits a crime on an Indian reservation.
The federal government still gets to prosecute that person, but it allows, unlike a state, it allows the tribal government to say, no, you may not execute our citizen.
University of Montana law professor Jordan Gross, who specializes in Native American legal issues, says the government got around the Major Crimes Act by charging Mitchell with carjacking resulting in death, which is not specifically mentioned as a death penalty crime that tribes can opt out of.
The federal government could have chosen not to charge carjacking resulting in death. They've got 2 murder charges and a whole bunch of other charges. And Mr. Mitchell would spend the rest of his life in a federal penitentiary.
The president of the Navajo Nation wrote President Trump asking him to commute Mitchell's sentence to life in prison. Mitchell is the only Native American currently on death row. Bonowitz says Mitchell's case is a prime example of what he calls the unequal application of the death penalty.
Because what they're really saying to the vast majority of murder victim family members is your loved one wasn't valuable enough for us to get an execution.
Even though public support for the death penalty has waned over the past decade, there are some who believe capital punishment is necessary. Sherry West, whose daughter Pamela Butler was kidnapped and raped in 1999, is among them. She plans to attend the execution of her daughter's killer, Keith Nelson, which is scheduled for August 28th.
I've been fighting a lot of years to get justice for her. So to me, I feel like this is going to be the easiest time for me because I don't have to worry about doing no more court hearings or anything after this.
West says having to go through nearly 20 years of appeals in Nelson's case has been agonizing.
He took a little girl that had a whole future ahead of her, and she didn't even get to see it, She didn't know him, and for her to be his last face that she's seen on this earth, I mean, that tears my soul apart.
For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Adam Pinsker.
That's the end of this program. Our work continues online as we cover the news throughout the week at WTIUnews.org. Have a great weekend.
Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by Smithville Fiber Internet, streaming TV, home security and automation in Southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com. Maller Grodner Attorneys providing legal services to clients and the community. Understanding, expertise, results. Bloomington and Indianapolis. LawMG.com. IU Alumni Association connecting IU's network of alumni and sharing the Indiana spirit through scholarships, advocacy, and volunteerism. Alumni.iu.edu. IU Center for Rural Engagement extending IU Bloomington resources to improve Hoosier lives in partnership with communities and organizations. Rural.indiana.edu. And by WTIU members. Thank you.